Good morning. Good morning. Okay, so I just want to put it out there. I need to know if you can hear me. I need to know if you can hear me because I have the second camera set up. We're going to do a bit of a field trip, and sometimes that gets a bit tricky. So, can you hear me? Thumbs up, thumbs down. Thank you, Cindy. Thank you. Thank you. Okay, so let's get into it. Today, I want to talk to you about hats. I want to tell you, I want to talk to you about the different types of hats and how you can get more room. Thank you so much. How you can get more room to stitch on your hat at the machine without buying special equipment, without resetting the machine parameters. All right. This is a trick that I learned a few years back, but I never had to worry about it. But I see all the time people are saying, "How do I get the hat lower on to the bill? How do I get it lower? How do I get more room?" Well, first of all, you need to be using the right hat. So, Cindy, Cindy, you're not sure you want to talk about caps? You just finished 3 cases. Um, well, then you probably got this down cold. You go for a bike ride, have a good time. We'll see you later. Oh, good morning, Barb. It's good to see you. So, anyways, let's start by talking about caps. First thing I'm going to do is I'm going to show you a picture. Whoops, y'all got too much going on here. There we go. So this is just a picture that I found on the internet. I looked for graphics on hat profiles, and this is one that I found a few years back that I share when somebody asks me about hats. Okay, so if you look at these hats, you can see that there are different profiles here, right? And that's very, very, very important. We all know that we should keep the bottom of the design somewhere about 1 inch. Hang on a second. Ah, I got mouse control issues. 1 inch, or about, I'm sorry, not an inch, a half inch, or about the width of your finger. Okay, let's go back to that. So you know that we need to have it about a half inch up from the bill. Some people want to go even lower, and you can. But first, you need to make sure that the design is going to fit on the hat. A low profile hat only has about 1.5 inches of stitchable space from the seam to where the crown breaks. See that curve where the crown, you're coming straight out the front of the hat, and then it breaks with the curve. That's where the crown breaks. A low profile hat, and there are no specific inches. That unstructured low profile hat could be larger, but with a steeper curve or a steeper incline. So there's no specific number. What you need to do is learn to what you need to do is learn to see the hats in your mind's eye visually. Okay. So this is a mid to low crown, and it can be structured, but again, you've got that half inch right here, and then the crown breaks. That one has about an inch and a half, maybe 2 inches, depending on the hat. Then we have a mid crown and a high crown. I personally, here I go with my issues. I personally prefer a high crown hat. Of course, not everybody does. Some people like those smaller hats. So let me show you. This is a Richardson 112. We all know Richardson 112s, right? Some of us avoid them like the plague. Others of us, those are our go-tos. But I want you to see something. And I don't know if you can see this. Can you see? Can you see the break to the crown? Yep. Here, maybe this will help. Now, can you see where the break is? All right. So if I were to take a ruler, I have a ruler. If I were to take a ruler and put it down here at the seam, subtract the half inch, there is only 2 inches, 2 inches of available space of stitch space here. You're not going to get a 3-inch design on a Richardson and have it come out well. You're not going to get a 2.5-inch design on a Richardson unless you bring it all the way down to the seam, and then you have a risk of hitting that seam with busting needles. Now, here is a high profile hat. Can you see that? Look at how straight that is. Yeah. This hat, and again, not everybody likes it. This hat has minus my half inch, 2.5 inches. And if I bring it down, I can get almost a 3-inch design on this hat. I prefer a 5-panel hat myself. This one is not a 5-panel hat, but normally when I buy my test hats, I buy a 5-panel hat versus a 6-panel hat. But again, your customers may not like that. And Cindy, yes, that's a very good question. What about when your customer wants to do a left of center? They only want something on this little panel here. You you've still got the same height availability, but you only have half as much room left to right. And the thing is that makes this really difficult, and maybe this is something that we need to educate our customers on. This is considered hat is considered a walking billboard. But when you cut that billboard in half, you can't put as much information in there. So I try to tell my customers that if they want to use this left of center panel to find a visual icon that their represents their logo, something that is visually identifiable as theirs, rather than trying to put Larry's Tree Farm and Landscaping Company with a big tree and a lawnmower. You got no room for all of that. Barb's got a suggestion here. Barb says, and she's put a number in here, the K707DP Camel 7 panel hydro has a lot of room for embroidery, no front seam, and a good substitute for Richardson's. That's awesome. I'm going to go look for that later, of course. Good morning, Jesse. Good to see you. We're talking hats today. Okay, so that's our basic education on hats. You need to know how much space is available to work with. You need to know that you can't push it beyond that break to the crown because it will distort everything. Where was I going? Oh, yeah. The next thing you need to be careful with, you need to understand, is hooping. You need to hoop your hat. One moment, please. And look what I have here. I have my hat hooped. Here's what you need to keep in mind when you're hooping a hat. If you're doing, if you're doing a, your machine has the capability of doing ear to ear, then you need to make sure that you have stabilizer that goes ear to ear. Those are the, what is it, 16-inch, 14 and 16-inch long strips of hat stabilizer. Be sure to use those. If you're just doing a front, you can get away with an 8-inch strip. But here's what you got to remember. However you hoop this hat is the way it's going to stitch. So if I were to hoop this hat and pull these sides down really low, then it's quite likely that my design is going to stitch. It's going to start low and then go high. It'll look like it's stitching straight across, but once you take it off the hoop, you'll see that it's lower here, excuse me, higher, and then goes lower and then comes back up again. So just experiment. Get some test hats, just cheap throwaway hats, and play with it. But remember, you need to make sure that your hat is hooped the same all the way around. Oh, and while we're here, did you know that you can adjust your hoops? Yes, you can. If you're using the same style hat all the time, you might want to adjust your hoop to fit that particular hat. I don't know if you've ever seen it, but in the commercial industry, if they run an assortment of different hat styles, they have hoops that are sized to fit each of those different styles. You can adjust the hoop. Just take your hoop and look for the little screws and nuts assemblies. You can loosen it. I would pull the hat as firmly as possible and then loosen it and pull the strap over and tighten it. You don't want, and this is going to be terrible because I want to take this to the machine, but if you loosen it, you don't want it so tight that you can't, you have to struggle to close that clip. You want to be able to just close the clip. And you'll know that that is positioned correctly, or excuse me, is put correctly, if you can pick it up by the bill and shake it and it doesn't move out of place. If it moves out of place, it's too loose. Tighten it. Okay, let's see what we get. Barb says you can get those hats previously mentioned at Dallas Shirts Wholesale. And then she goes on to say the Camel 815 Hydro Performance Snapback Trucker Cap Slight Curve looks good. Also, I haven't ordered that one yet. Just some great suggestions, people. Take a look, see if you can find them. Okay, so now that we're done talking about hats, I'm going to mute this microphone, unmute the other one. I should probably find a way to see you guys. We'll have to check that out at the machine. And we're going on a field trip. Okay, I'm going on the field trip. You're going to watch and keep your fingers crossed that this works. Mute. Can you hear me? Gosh, I don't I'll get the camera. Let me see if I can see what you're seeing. I know there's a delay, hoping that, oops, do, 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 do. Let me see, hoping, keep your fingers crossed. I'm working on it. Where are we? Oh, guess what? I forgot to change the camera. Oops. Coming back. Oh my goodness. Let's try this again. All right. Okay. Oh, guess what? Okay, here we go. I'm looking at this. I won't be able to there we are. I won't be able to pull your comments up, but Barb, when I get back to the computer, I want to talk about the Gen 2. Don't let me forget that. All right. So this is my machine. If I go to frame, you can see that I have selected a hat hoop. I have a file that fits in that hat hoop. That file is 53 millimeters tall, which is about 2.25, 2.5 inches. That's pretty standard. I usually digitize for 2.25 because um, a lot of the new machines, that's about all they can handle, 2.25. So because we always trace, we're going to go over, we're going to hit our trace, and here's the tricky part. I want you to see, gosh, I hope you can see this, the trace. Not bad. Yep. Okay. Gosh, that 8-second delay always messes with my head. Now, what if this were bigger? What if I made this taller? Oops. Guess it would help if I said okay. 150. Okay, so it changes. Close, recalculate, go back. Now it's outside the parameters of the hoop. All right. Now, if I do that trace, here we go. And I'm gonna keep it on the screen here. We all know how a trace looks. So if I hit trace while we're in that cap loop, the machine faults. Yep. So turn it off, turn it back on. We're going to have to wait for it to reboot. Rebooting, 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 rebooting. Rebooting. I know this is taking forever. One more minute. All right. Oops. Making all kinds of noise here. So we're going to go back to settings. No, actually, we don't. We don't want to go back to settings. We want we want to sorry, I need to straighten out the machine. Oh, that's terrible, isn't it? What do we want to do? We want, this machine is still new to me, so I'm still not quite sure what I'm doing. Why is that 79? We don't want that. Do, do, do. We're going to play here and close and load and load. I'm sorry. Forgive me. All right, we're back. Okay. So, because my machine has the cat hoop selected, it's automatically turned my design upside down because, that's the way after our stitch. And if I go to frame and I select hoops, I can select the hoop. It's going to automatically recenter itself. But remember, we did this and we want more space. All right, so how do we do this? We do not use our hat hoop selection on the machine. Where'd it go? Default, where is it? I use always on my machine. I do not select the hoop size on my machine. I always use the largest hoop available on the machine. Of course, that now turns my design up forward because it thinks it's going to do a flat. But if I go to trace, I have all this available space. But my design is wrong. So if I close, go to settings, select angle, change my angle to 180, recalculate it, and flip. Now it's upside down as I need it on my hat, right? Okay. Now, if I go to trace, I don't know if you can see this. I need to first reposition the hat so that it's where I want it to start. All right. And then I can hit trace. And I want to watch it trace. Now, did you see that? I still have that ½ inch. If I go here and I change my settings, we've already done this once before. I'm going to make this larger, not larger as in wider, but taller. So now it is over 3 inches. Can you see that? This is a size indicator that says that it's 79.6. That's more than 3 inches. All right. I hope I'm not making anybody motion sick. Please forgive me if I am. All right. So we're going to trace again. We're going to change our speed to low. Keep your fingers crossed. The thing about this method, oh, see, too high. Yeah. But it did come lower. Okay. So, oh, well, that would probably help. Huh? What we have to do is we have to trace until we get it where we want it. We do not want to go past the break of the at the curve. We don't want to go past that because it will cause a distortion. But we also don't want to go so far as to hit our hoop. So based on this, I know that 79.6 is much too large for this hat. But the thing that I want to show you here is that I got that 3-inch size on my hat without special equipment and without changing the parameters. Okay? All right. I'm going to close this and go back to the computer. Be right back. Unmute here, unmute there. All right. Did you miss me? Did you miss me? Did you miss me? Okay. So, one thing about this. Okay, first of all, I got more space on my hat by not using the hat hoop selection. I always keep it on the largest hoop available to my machine, and you always trace. The thing you have to remember when you do that is you have to remember the 180, change your angle to 180, and then you have to position exactly where you want it. Once you've got that set up, you can run hat after hat after hat. No special hoop, no special parameter settings. Now, the only thing that makes this difficult is for those machines that actually use that have an indicator that tells the machine that you have the hat hoop loaded, that the driver is loaded. Those machines automatically select the hoop driver. And there's no way to get around that. Not easily anyways. I know that the Brother and Baby Lock machines that out there in the World Wide Web, there is a um, hack, right? There is a hack that you can use to disable the sensor for the hat driver. On Happy Embroidery machines, which also has an indicator that tells it when the hat hoop is loaded onto the machine. I believe it's like a little finger that pushes the sensor on the machine. Um, I don't know that there's a cat. I have to get around that one. All right. So I'm going to go play catch up here. Anthony, can you, sorry, I was in the other room. Can you give me a better idea of what you're referring to? Yes, but a big drop in. Can you clarify that for me? Barb, you're working on planters for the back deck today? It must be beautiful outside. Beautiful, I'm sure. Thank you, Cindy. Were you guys able to hear me out there? Gosh, I hope so. Let's see. And yeah, the new machines are smart. But you can still do this on the old machine also. Um, there's a very popular Chinese brand out there. Um, starts with an R. I don't know that I want to mention names specifically, but in their Facebook groups, I see all the time people are asking, how can I get the design lower? How can I um, get more stitch space? Well, we know we have to use the right hat, uh, but now we know that we don't have to select the hoop that we're using. We know that we can leave it on the largest hoop, and as long as we trace and make sure that it's not going to hit any sides, we can use whatever hoop we own on the machine. Just have to set up for it. Okay, so one last thing. Yeah, we're going a bit over. I'm getting sick, so long-winded. Um, Barb had mentioned earlier about the Gen 2 caps. I like them as they hold the cap down in three places, spendy but worth the money. You know, I had I have the Gen 2 hat hoop a few years back, and I did that because my brother um, has a disability. He has limited mobility in his right hand. So, and when you hoop a hat, you need to be able to hold the structure and you need to be able to bring the point. And it was too much for him. But the Gen 2 hat hoop made it easier for him because it has the T-bar, which holds the tension on the hat so that he could bring the bar around or the um, could secure the hat in place. But once once he was no longer doing hats, um, I went back to the the machine hooping, the machine driver angle. And if you hoop properly, you're using the right size hoop, your design is stitch, or excuse me, path or hat. There's no reason, unless it's personal preference, if you find that the Gen 2 hat system works for you, wonderful. But if you can learn how to use your equipment as you got, it's something you've already spent money on. Okay, where? Thank you, Tiffany. Yes, you could hear me. You could only see the computer screen in the middle. We could not see you tracing, but you knew what I was doing. Oh, thank you. Because I don't have, there's no monitor out there that I can watch what the camera is doing. Um, so that could be something I should set up for future remote field trips. Um, but thank you. Did you guys all understand how you can get more room to stitch hats without changing parameters or buying specialized equipment? Did that come across okay? That was my goal today, was to show you how you can use your current equipment to get more room on your head. Unfortunately, like I said, there are some machines that have a sensor built in that you have to work around. Um, but for the most part, your commercial embroidery machines. Oh, you're right about that. Barb was saying that she uses a regular hat hoop also, but the Gen 2s are faster to set up on certain caps. I also hoop my visors backwards. Oh, yeah, I've seen that. I haven't done too many visors myself, but you're right. When you're setting up a visor, because you know it has no crown, it's just it's just this band across the bill. Uh, you need to change it. You need to hoop that so that the bill is pointing at you, not to the back of the machine. Um, um, that gives you, it gets that bill out of the way. Just got to remember to set the machine up correctly, set the design up correctly. Remember, you only have about 1 inch, maybe 1.5 inches, maybe 1 1/4. Uh, but be aware of what you got going. And I think I think that's it for today. I think that's it. I hope that you found this information useful. Share it. What else have we got here? Oh, yeah, we'll be back next week. All right. I'm going to go ahead and sign off. Let's see. I have to press the right button. Whoops, that's not the button I want. Here we go.
Wasn't that fun? Do you have more questions? Do you want to learn something new? Join me at quicktostitch.com for coffee and conversation, and we'll talk about it. Embroidery machines, designs, and business. Hope to see you soon. Bye now.